I'd mentioned my name is Jeremy Newman, Policy Director for THSC, and we've had extensive experience over the last 5 years with the Texas Ethics Commission's practices. So I want to shed some light on that for you today so that you can prioritize the money that you're sending to the different needs that we have. The TEC has become an agency that struggles for relevance by setting regulatory traps that ensnare Texans whose only mistake was to think that they could freely participate in the political process. THSC has experienced this corruption firsthand. The TEC's legitimate functions have become increasingly difficult to find amid the mire of political favoritism and malicious punishment by process inflicted on everyday Texans. As one example, THSC was fined $1,900 by the TEC because we self-corrected a report within 2 weeks of the deadline to show that we had actually spent $65 less during the reporting period than we initially recorded. When THSC contested the fine, we were denied, and one member suggested at the hearing that we should have been fined $16,000 instead, which was the full amount that we had spent during that reporting period. At the same meeting, the TEC voted to reduce the fine to the state legislator for a report that was 6 months late from $10,000 to $1,000. After giving the state legislator a 90% $9,000 fine reduction, the TEC finally gave THSC a token $600 off the fine that we had received for self-reporting a $65 error. The TEC is now asking for an increase in their litigation budget. What they don't tell you is that they face increased litigation costs because they are drowning Texans in frivolous litigation over patently unconstitutional regulations. The TEC has adopted numerous regulations which they knew from the beginning to be constitutionally prohibited, and which they openly discussed in their meetings as something that they would simply let the courts sort out. Not only did the TEC punt on its own ethical responsibilities to follow the U.S. Constitution, it is now asking this body to pass on the cost of those decisions to the taxpayers who the TEC's regulations have also been designed to ensnare. The TEC is already forcing law-abiding Texans to pay endless fines and litigation costs simply to participate in the political process. Now the TEC is asking for the taxpayers to pay the extra cost for its bills as well. The TEC's unethical practices are best summed up by a quote from the Wall Street Journal discussing THSC's litigation against the Ethics Commission's abusive regulations. The real goal of the Texas Ethics Commission is to reduce the influence of critics and expose donors to political intimidation. Here's an opportunity to vindicate citizen participation and accountability in government, which is what politicians fear the most. Thank you for your time, and I strongly urge you to reject this proposal.
Thank you for your testimony.